Sorry about the late start. We'll get going as soon as we make sure that all the IT stuff has been switched over. So it should be, I got the thumbs up. So I will call the Western Riverside Council of Governments Executive Committee to order. Please rise with me as we honor our nation's flag. Ready to begin? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And before we sit down, I'd like for us to just take a moment to remember the 14 victims of the San Bernardino event that just occurred. So just a moment of silence, please, for those. Thank you. It'll come up. I think. Janice, roll call, please.
City of Banning. City of Calamasa.
Here.
City of Canyon Lake.
Here.
City of Corona.
Here.
City of Eastvale.
Here.
City of Hemet.
Here.
City of Urupa Valley. City of Lake Elsinore.
Here.
City of Menifee. City of Moreno Valley. City of Murrieta. City of Norco.
Here.
City of Paris.
Here.
City of Riverside.
Here.
City of San Jacinto.
Here.
City of Temecula.
I'm here.
Thank you, sir. City of Wildemar. County of Riverside, District 1. County of Riverside, District 2. County of Riverside, District 3.
Here.
County of Riverside, District 5.
Here.
Eastern Municipal Water District.
Here.
Western Municipal Water District. Morongo Band of Mission Indians. Riverside County Superintendent of Schools.
Here.
WRCOG TAC Chair. That concludes roll call, and we have quorum.
Thank you. I'd like to take a moment and let Scott say a couple words from the city of San Jacinto.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's been a wonderful 5 years being on this board. What really brings to light and really takes your membership on a city council to the next level is being on a regional board. It takes you out of your own space, and it connects you with council members from all over the region. It connects you with supervisors, and it really helps you get a better understanding of leadership and what the whole region needs. Recently, I made this decision to resign from all of my public responsibilities except for city council. I've also declined being mayor for 2016. And all that due to the recent passing of my mother. My dad and mom were married for 54 years. And over a great deal of soul searching, I came to the conclusion that I needed to take some time out to really focus in on family and really walk through this season. These aren't easy decisions. We all have a lot of people that depend on us. And so this is going to be what the next season looks like for me and for my family. But I want to thank all of my colleagues here. You all are amazing, and I've learned a lot from each and every one of you. Having the opportunity to do things like travel to Sacramento with Supervisor Washington and receive the Governor's Award on Governor's Energy Award, and traveling to Washington, D.C. with Supervisor Ashley and Supervisor Tavallone, and being able to work with members of Congress and Senate. These aren't things that council members normally get to do. So it brings you to that place where you get a flavor for public leadership, and it's wonderful. And it is a part of the great American experience. So I want to thank all of you. The leadership of Rick Bishop is absolutely amazing. I've always admired Rick, his leadership, his staff, and how he chooses his staff is just, you don't find that in every public agency. So thank you all for your support over the last 5 years. Thank you for being just quality people. And I say that from a personal perspective because I've gotten to know a lot of you on a personal level, and the public doesn't get that. The public doesn't realize that you guys really care about what you do. And sometimes they throw government into one big bucket and say that it's all bad and it's all wrong. But that's not the case. Because the people that sit here and the people that I know that sit at their cities, they really care about what they do. So thank you for that, and I appreciate that. God bless all of you, and Godspeed on every single initiative that the COG does. Thank you.
Well, simplify, my friend. It's been 5 great years. Yeah. So, you know, we always have these fancy proclamations that we give with a bunch of whereas. So, we just wanted to let you know that, you know, we appreciate your 5 years, your hard work, and everything that you've done, and we're going to miss you. But if you need us, we're here. Thank you. And, you know, we're a band of brothers, so we'll always be here for you. So,
thank you so much.
That was the Marine Corps part. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, let's take a photo of that.
And I'll just conduct the rest of the meeting from up here. Yes. Okay. Ruth Ann? So I know you've already had your lunch and, you know, your formal going away and all the other stuff. And so, you know, it's been a long time. You know, I actually put on your thing Simplify because, you know, you were the warrior for WRCOG, and it's been a great pleasure. And we have a lot of people that want to say some good things about you. So I know that's really what you wanted, right? But it is what it is. So I'm going to have Marianne Edwards to come up from Senator Stone's office. Yeah, perfect timing.
Well, thank you. And I would follow up with what Scott said, and especially in Ruth Ann's case. You know, when you work on committees, county-level committees, you really do get to know your colleagues. And though we may be spread out far and wide, we are a family because we see the same faces at meetings. We see the same faces at California League. So it really is bittersweet to present things like this resolution from the State Senate. But with your almost 30 years of service, and she doesn't look a day over 29. Senator Stone would like to offer his sincere thanks. He said he's had the privilege of working with you for numbers of years, not just as a supervisor, but even as a Temecula City Council member. And your professionalism and your heart and what you have done for the communities and regionally in Riverside County and for the county as a whole is amazing and is to be commended. I'm not going to read everything on this Senate revolution. It could be a revolution, huh? The Senate resolution, but to say that Senator Stone counts you as a valued colleague and a dear friend. And he has only the best wishes for you in your endeavors. And we'll still see you as a planning commissioner. So again, still part of the family, but for everything you have done for the county, from the office of Senator Stone, we thank you for your service. And here is the revolution.
Thank you.
Okay, our next speaker is George Johnson.
Hey, thank you. You know, it really is a privilege to be up here with you, Ruth Ann. We've known each other a long time, and I consider more than just a professional colleague, I consider you a friend. Many of you don't know, but we started together at the Riverside County Transportation Department almost 25 years ago. And Ruth Ann came from the private sector. I came from the private sector. We had a lot of the same personal values. And so we developed a friendship pretty much right away. And we hit it off. And one thing we found out we had in common right away was we enjoyed good food and good wine. And Ruth Ann, as you know, she's a wine connoisseur. So back in those days, we had some really nice dinners and some nice wine with our spouses. And it was a very enjoyable time. And then I got to watch Ruth Ann as she ascended through the ranks of WRCOG. And, you know, Ruth Ann is very much synonymous with the TUMF program, as we all know. She really took on the challenge. It was a very difficult time when we decided we were going to look at how do we do this TUMF program. There wasn't a model for this, and it was largely through Ruth Ann's efforts. My wife is Luann, sorry about that. We created a program that we're all very, very proud of. It's a nationally recognized program, but Ruth Ann gets a lot of credit for finding a way to develop a program, implement that program, and most importantly, sustain that program for, 13 years now. And you can just see the success of what the TUMF program means mobility throughout western Riverside County. But as we talk about regional governance, you know, that's what I'm going to remember Ruth Ann for. She really has a dogged passion for regional governance. She has incredible enthusiasm, excitement, determination to make sure we do the right thing. And I've learned so much from Ruth Ann over the years. And most importantly is the smile that she always brings to the job. In the toughest of times, she finds a way to smile. So thank you for that, Ruth Ann. And I just want to wish you the best as you be in this next chapter of your life. Congratulations.
Our next speaker is Darren Henderson.
Well, you'll probably notice a few themes in today's discussions: friendship, wine, and food. I started working with WRCOG as a consultant back in April of 2000 and have been working with them since that time. It's given me lots of opportunities to stand up here in front of you and to present on really boring things like TUMF. But this one is truly a pleasure, but also truly bittersweet as we acknowledge the fine work that Ruth Ann has done over the last 15 years that I've been here, and more importantly, the friendship that we have. At times, I think it's been a true pleasure working with Ruth Ann, and I think our working relationship has been one of the best that I've ever experienced in my entire professional career, and that I will truly miss. There's been times where I think we were ready to wring each other's necks, and there's been times where one of us has had to reel in the other to keep us on track, but I think that's what's really made the working experience so pleasurable. But more importantly is the friendship. As an example, just a couple weeks ago, we had a very personal incident in my family, and the second person to call me was Ruth Ann. First my sister, second time Ruth Ann. That is the level of friendship that we have, and that is why, as much as it makes me sad that you're no longer going to be here after I walk out this door today, I know I'm going to be seeing you, and I know we're going to get to spend lots more time with good food and good wine and good family, and for that I'm truly grateful. So thank you for your service. It's been a true pleasure working for you, and I look forward to continuing our friendship.
Our next speaker is Alexia Washburn. Uh-oh.
Okay. try not to get emotional. And you know this is an inside joke. I would have found, I looked high and low for my foot-high Tumph wizard hat that both Dale West and I believe Darren, you had one too from the early days of the Tumph, or I would have worn that. But thank you. Thank you for your past almost 30 years of public service and leadership in this region, and I mirror both commenters before me, but on a personal level, thank you for being my boss, thank you for being a mentor, and for being my friend. I've had a unique opportunity for you to serve in all three capacities, and as a boss, you've always led by example. You've been a great leader for this organization. You've supported us, you've challenged us to always be and do better and find creative solutions, and you've put us in check, put me in check when I've needed it. Thank you for being my mentor. I've always admired and looked up to you. I've appreciated your guidance throughout my career for the past 16 years, and I will always think of you when I hand out my business cards because I still carry with me the business card holder that you gave to me when I graduated from grad school 16 years ago. And lastly, thank you for being a friend. You've opened up your home to me many late nights, so we've had city council meetings down in Southwest Riverside, and you've stayed up with me and been a great listener and provided the guidance that I've needed just through daily life. So many of you may not know that Ruth Ann is also the queen of acronyms. She came up with the acronym for our Tumph program. She also came up with the acronym for our Climate Action Plan program, or Captivate program. So I'm going to leave you with this, a new acronym for Tumph. T stands for travel, U for unlimited vino or wine, M for me time, and F for foodie fun. So that's your new Tumph. And know that you will be greatly missed, but this is a farewell, not a goodbye.
Next speaker.
Stick ponies. That was from a previous, the stick ponies were something that we did for the litter program and the launch for the litter program, and we had races where our elected officials got on those stick ponies and did a relay. And after that, staff kept them and would just generally ride them around the office whenever we needed a little pick-me-up. So we do still have 5 stick ponies.
Are any of those council members still here that rode on those ponies?
No, I don't believe so. That were part of that event. Yeah. I won't rat them out. That's what it is.
I was hoping you would rat him out. Our next speaker is Larry Markham. He's not here? Oh, sorry about that. Thank you. You probably told me that. Steve DeBon and Jeff Dunn, is this going to be the BBK together thing, or?
We'll work together, but we just have our individual comments.
2 lawyers.
I know, it's scary. So we're going to be brief here. You know, I'll keep the length for closed session, but we'll be brief here. You know, I learned that you were going to be leaving about a year ago, and I've been in denial ever since. So I think I now have to come to the point where I have to recognize that. Ruth Ann, you made the complicated look easy, and ARCOG benefited because of that. You know, when I first started working with you on the Tumph program, you provided a copy of this little document called the Tumph Administrative Plan. And I came to learn over time that this was the sort of the Tumph Bible that laid out all of the rules. But I got at the time it's a deceivingly short, simple document. But as time went on and as we looked at it and relied on it, and we made a few changes, but really the general concepts were there from the start. That document is amazing because it held together beautifully. And when we got into the Beaumont litigation, and we had to rely on the requirements that you put forth in that document, it just held up great. So it's always impressed me how you put together this document at the start of the program that now, over 10, almost 15 years later, it's still there. Your passion for perfection, your passion for regional government, your passion for getting the job done, it's something that I will miss personally, and that I know that we'll all miss. And of course, I'll miss spending time with you, but I won't miss our friendship because I know we're going to be friends long after you leave.
Ruth Ann, on behalf of the entire legal team, thank you. Your tireless efforts, your unwavering support, and an amazing determination have been successful for the legal team. We literally could not have done it without you. You both adequately, more than adequately represent, but you also defend WRCOG. And without you, we could not do what we do. So thank you. There were many nights, lots of weekends, countless extra hours that you had to put in over and above what you normally do during the day. And all of that probably has not really been noticed, but we wanted to thank you for that. And it culminated in something that has been successful for WRCOG in a way that has important ramifications for local government throughout the state. And so we thank you. And we're going to miss you, but it's not goodbye. We'll stay in touch. Thanks for that.
I know you've been up here a long time, and so that's all the speakers, and then I have some other state and federal and some other things to do. But what I'd like to do is just take a moment, because you worked with a lot of people up here, and I know time is, already running late, but I wondered if a couple folks wanted to just say something. I want to give the opportunity to those that have worked with Ruth Ann. You don't have to be shy. I mean, if you don't want to, I'm good, but.
All right, I've got to say something here. Of course, I unmuted the wrong mic. Ruth Ann, I have a unique opportunity that I get to keep working with you through AQMD. And so I see this as not a closing, but just moving on to the next step. And I'm excited to move forward with that. But I'm the luckiest guy here, other than your husband, of course, who gets to continue just the day-to-day as we're going to continue. But you've done an amazing job for this organization. And every time I've ever seen any document that I know you had your hands of or were part of, it's always been an amazing thing. And thank you for all your dedicated service to this organization.
Anyone else?
Ruth Ann, I don't know that we have enough time to cover all of the years you and I have worked together, but going back to when I first came to WRCOG in '95 and the years beyond that and working together, and I could not be more excited to now have you as my 3rd District Planning Commissioner. So look forward to a number of great years continuing to work with you. I know they'll be exciting. Thank you.
Oh, sure. If you think I'm going to let you get away without saying something about the TUMP, Ruth Ann was around when we put the TUMP, Ruth Ann put the TUMP together. I was around as a supervisor with Buster, and what was it, 15 years ago, 12 years ago? George mentioned it. And it was not an easy task. Coachella Valley had it put together, and Rick, I think, assigned Ruth Ann to do the task on behalf of all the cities. And when I say it wasn't an easy task, Ruth Ann, those are words beyond example, because it was a horrible task trying to get everybody to understand what it was all about. And still today, when we try to bring those in the loop and try to explain what it's all about, including all aspects of development. If you recall, we couldn't get all the players together 12 or 15 years ago, meaning all the vested holders together 12 to 15 years ago. And now some of those are coming back and saying, why weren't we at the table? Where you were invited at the table. I have a feeling we'll be calling you various times if Ben will allow us to bring you back once in a while to talk. Will you do that, Ben? Rick. So thank you for all you've done. I was just writing on here, we could never have done that without you. And we're going to miss you greatly, but thankfully you'll be here so we can talk to you. Good luck. Ben's gain, our loss.
Well, I've just only gotten the pleasure of really getting to know you this year as my first year on WRCOG serving, but Your work ethic, your expertise are just amazing to me, and I know you've answered a lot of questions. But on a little bit lighter note, I have to say what I'm going to miss the most is your little bit of bling that you bring, whether it's your glasses, your necklace, and it's tasteful, but it's fun, and I am always anxious to see what you're going to have on, so I will definitely miss that.
Okay, Scott?
Ruth Ann, you're one of the reasons why it's so awesome to serve on the COG. And when I first came out of the COG 5 years ago, I kind of, just a quick view, I thought, well, Ruth Ann's like the backup quarterback, right? But then, and no disrespect to Rick, but then I realized she was like the quarterback. She was doing all this stuff. And Rick, wonderful choice to have her here, but there's so many things I could say, but the bottom line is that you make this place shine. And you can't replace somebody like you. There'll be maybe somebody else to fill the role, but not like you. Thank you for everything you've done. Thank you for caring. Thank you for just not having any end to your energy. You just keep going. Thank you, and God bless you.
And I think what he meant was Rick was the head coach and you were the quarterback.
Right. Rick was sitting in those signals. He was right.
I will. But before you talk, we have a few more things here, and I don't quite know how to do that. So many, you only have two hands. So we have from Richard Roth from the State Senator, 31st District. He has an award, and I'll just read this because this is a short one. On behalf of the California State Senate, I want to congratulate you on your retirement from the Western Riverside Council of Government for over 30 years. You've been instrumental in the planning and development of regional infrastructure. Thank you for your service to the cities of Western Riverside County. Richard D. Roth. And you know a lot of senators. And then here's one from Mike Burrell. And you know some Assembly folks. And then here's one from Eric Linder from the 60th, another senator from the 60th State Assembly District. And then this one is from Joseph Medina from the 61st State Assembly District. And this one is Melissa Melendez from the 67th State Assembly District. And we have one more, W.R. Caucus to do this too.
No, the best for the last.
And the best, we save the best for last. And so we and then I'll bring the Army down to help you carry all this later. And then I'm going to go sit down and leave the mic with you.
Okay, well, I got a few notes over here. I just want to pick up a couple of things because this is sort of my last report and time that I can speak to you, so I can say whatever I want. So I've got a few things I'd like to say here while I'm here. And I'm surprised that nobody said they were going to miss my caustic sense of humor. But I'm going to try to get through this without crying. But it's just I'm just at that age, and that happens. So bear with me. So I thank everyone for your kind words, and you all mean so much to me. It's hard for me to believe that I've been at WRCOG for over 20 years, and that this is going to be the last time I address this body as an employee and the Deputy Executive Director. And I look at the Diaz, and there's one face that's been here since the day I started, and that's Supervisor Tavoloni. Supervisor Washington came very quickly afterwards in December, and I've known many of you for over a decade. And even though we haven't worked together a lot, I've enjoyed all of it with each one of you. You've all made yourselves available to me and to staff to make sure that the TUMF program is successful, as well as the PACE programs and everything else that staff comes to you for counsel and guidance on. And I thank you. We talk about the TUMF program, and Supervisor Buster asked me one time, hey, you think you could do that? It's like, yeah, sure, how hard could that be? And then Supervisor Tavaloni said, well, I want one in my district. And then this board said, no, you're going to do the whole western Riverside count, And it's like, okay. So we started over again, but we did a great job. And no matter how good, I appreciate you guys telling me how great I am. Thank you. But without your political leadership and your political will, we can't do it. And as Supervisor Tavaloni talked about a little bit, we really had some very serious opposition that first go around. Supervisor Ashley was on the board and probably remembers that, Councilwoman Rita Rogers. There was some serious pushback to that program, and it was your leadership and political will that made it happen. So it's $645 million to your credit in projects. So I thank you very much for that. I want to thank the executive director for his trust and friendship. Together we've been through some pretty crazy times, and I hope that we've accomplished some wonderful things over the years. But I know that there's so much more in store for this agency, and so I look forward to watching it. I'd like to recognize some staff. So when I call your name, will you please stand? Donna Dean. Lupe Lutton. Donna, stand up. I'm still here. Donna Dean. Lupe Lotman. Daniel Cornejo Ramirez. Oh, Lupe's in the back. Oh, no, you're okay. You're there. Lupe and Darren Henderson. This is your TUMF team. This is over 80 years of experience in the room, and I know that they're going to continue to do great things with this program. I'd also like the rest of WRCOG staff to stand up. Please, stand up. I'm still deputy. Come on. This is the life's blood of this organization, and you've seen all the great things they can do, and they will continue to do so. And I salute you, and I've enjoyed every minute working with you. Okay, the hard part. I hope that you all know that I think of every jurisdiction represented up here as mine, as if I lived in your community. You are my councilmen and councilwomen. You are all my Board of Supervisors. And I hope that my efforts here at WRCOG has made each one of your communities a little bit better place to live. But I won't be far. I will be continuing my duties for Mayor Benoit from the wonderful Wildemar, as his AQMD representative and board assistant. And I will also serve Supervisor Washington as his planning commissioner for the terrific 3rd District. So in closing, I know that at these various public hearings where the audience is packed and it's difficult, faces get lost in the crowd and friendly faces. So I have a little something for you to recognize a friendly face in the crowd when I attend one of your meetings.
Oh, God.
So, I won't get lost in the crowd. I don't have sunglasses or gloves, but, and the neat thing about this hat, okay, is that this can be like the yes vote, and you can see it out there, but, you can turn it up back, and, I've got this. So, when you see that, there will be a friendly face in the audience, and, know that I'm there rooting for all of you at the same time. And I wish you all the best of luck, and I hope you know how much I care for each one of you. Thank you.
All right, so anyone who speaks after that has a tough act to follow. All right, next we have public comments. These are non-agenda items, 3 minutes in length. And so we have one person requesting to speak, Arnold from the Southern California Association of Governments. You're going to need a hat or something, my friend. I don't know what you're going to do now. Hold on, your mic's not on. Your mic's not on.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Chairman and members of the Executive Committee, Arnold San Miguel, your Regional Affairs Officer for Western Riverside County and San Bernardino County. And Ruth Ann just gave me permission to do this, and I called her a number of years ago asking her permission to do this, and I never followed through. So I'm on, and this is on TV now, so I'm really under the gun here. But at SCAG, we have a wall of accomplishments, and I've always wanted to add the WRCOG TUMP program. So I've asked Ruth, could we do that? Because you may not know, but SCAG provided the initial seed money that went into TUMP. So we are very proud of that because it's wonderful. You know, success has many fathers. So thanks, Ruth Ann. Appreciate that. So hopefully that's a good segue into that. But my purpose here today is to invite you to a workshop that's for elected officials on the 2016-2040 Draft Regional Transportation Plan and Sustainable Community Strategies. We are required by Senate Bill 375 to have workshops for elected officials, and I've handed out a flyer to you all. This little colorful thing here. So the one for the Western Riverside County elected officials is scheduled for January 13th. It says here 11 to 12:30 here in this room. So at 9:30 on that date, January 13th, the Riverside County Transportation Commission meeting meets. So our goal is to, when that meeting adjourns, to jump into the workshop. And then we're up against the WRCOG Admin and Finance Committee meeting. So we wanted to do it at a time and place when we knew there'd be lots of local elected officials around. Plus, all elected officials are encouraged and invited to come to this workshop. There'll be like a 20-minute short presentation, and then we'll receive comments, questions on the draft regional transportation plan and the program environmental impact report. This is a good time to give your input on the funded part of the plan, but it's also, there's a part called the strategic plan that you can give input on projects for the future, things that you think about, that you come across in your daily work that we need to be thinking about for this region. So that's a great opportunity to do that. I encourage you to come out and give your input. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. That's on item 7. All right. Next is a consent item. We have items A through I. Were there any requests to speak on any items on the consent calendar?
No, I pushed my button.
I have a motion by, I'm not sure, did we have someone request to speak? I'm sorry, Linda.
I just wanted to record a no vote on item H for Harupa Valley.
Okay, thank you. So I had a motion. I'm not sure who made the motion. It was Supervisor Jeffers. And the second was by, our mayor from Banning. Okay. Please vote.
I'm sorry, who seconded? Thank you. City of San Jacinto, please vote. Oh, San Jacinto left.
And that motion passes 19 and one abstain. Okay?
Mr. Chair, may I,
Yes.
City of Paris, did you abstain from the entire consent calendar or just the minutes? Did you abstain from the minutes only or the entire consent calendar? The minutes? Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, next we have item 7A, our Hero Program Activities Update with Crystal Adams.
All right, good afternoon, Chair Tisdale, members of the committee, staff, and guests. My name is Crystal Adams. I'm an analyst here at WRCOG, specifically with the HERO program. So as a brief update, you can see here we have 285 WRCOG-associated HERO cities, and we're very excited to keep adding new cities every week. And as a quick update, since I know we're a little behind, we have over 41,000 applications submitted just here in Western Riverside County, which equates to about a 66.9 approval rate with 27,000 applications approved. To date, we've totaled over $319 million in approved projects, which is something we're very excited for here in the Western Riverside County area. As you can see here, we also have a $553 million economic impact. That is just here, and we're very excited about that. And see here, we like to, we obviously have our current policy for multiple PACE providers here in the Western Riverside area. The current policy recommends jurisdictions to commit to HERO as a sole PACE provider. However, to do their due diligence if they wish to decide to pursue multiple multiple PACE providers in their jurisdiction. To correspond with that, we have developed with Renovate America, our private partner, to help develop a new policy to help you all do your due diligence to determine who would be a best PACE provider for your jurisdiction. Developing this policy was important to WRCOG to ensure that member agencies could filter through marketing materials that could negatively impact the PACE community or HERO itself. This policy was developed to be utilized and to set as industry standards for PACE. Here you can see the 15 standards include such items as underwriting guidelines, disclosures, subordination, tax benefit disclosure, contractors, and examination. One of our important things that we like to decide, to have you decide on today is to have an auditing feature that WRCOG will also be participating in by the end of the next fiscal year. With the adoption of the consumer protection policies, WRCOG member agencies will be in a better position to allow multiple PACE providers in their jurisdiction, because it seems that although we have the policy in place, some of our jurisdictions are unsure of which questions to ask to ensure that they are getting a good PACE provider in their area. For our master indenture or limited subordinate obligation improvement bonds, HERO was the first PACE provider to offer subordination to its property owners. To date, HERO has processed over 70 of these subordinations at the time of sale or refinancing. To accommodate more HERO property owners, WRCOG has reached a solution with Renovate America to offer more property owners the opportunity to subordinate their HERO assessment at the time of sale or refinance. So today we're bringing forth a resolution to authorize the issuance of bonds that will be secured by the assessments subject to the limited subordination. This resolution will also approve a new master indenture to establish the terms and conditions pursuant to which bonds will be issued and administered. These terms will be applicable to such bonds and are nearly identical to the current terms and conditions in our current bonds in other respects. For this action, I have Warren Diven, our bond counsel from Best Krieger, and Scott McKinley, legal representation from Renovate America, in the audience, now available for questions. So, Mr. Chair, today I'm here with 7 requested actions from the Executive Committee. 1, to receive the revised summary of our California HERO Program Report. 2, to conduct a public hearing to include the cities of Belvedere, Crescent City, Dublin, Mill Valley, Thousand Oaks, the counties of Butte and Kings unincorporated areas in the modification of the program report for the California HERO Program. 3, adopt Resolution 3715 to modify the program to include the aforementioned cities and counties. 4, accept the cities of Pinole, Sausalito, and Woodlake and the counties of Contra Costa, San Luis Obispo, and Yuba unincorporated areas as associate members of WRCOG. 5, adopt Resolution 35-15, setting the public hearing for the aforementioned cities and counties for January 2016. 6, adopt the Consumer Protections Policy for PACE providers for use by member jurisdiction in considering other PACE providers in the subregion. And 7, adopt Resolution 39-15, authorizing the issuance of WRCOG's limited subordination agreed obligation improvement bonds and approving and directing the related documents and approving related actions. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you for your report. And at this time, I'd like to open the public hearing at 3:17. Is there anyone on the phone that requests to speak?
Do we have any callers online for the California HERO Program? I hear none.
Okay, thank you. And we have one person that wants to speak on this item, Jeremy Hutman from California First. Want to come up, Jeremy?
Good afternoon, members of the WRCOG Executive Committee.
Pull your mic up.
Okay, sorry. My name is Jeremy Hutman. I'm the Regional Director for the California First PACE program. I'm here today to speak in support of requested action number 6, the Consumer Protection Policy. A strong standardized consumer protection policy is exactly what this industry needs. It provides a great reference for local governments as they're vetting different PACE programs. And what it also does is it levels the playing field as more PACE providers enter the marketplace. Hero has always been the leader for all things PACE in the state. And at California First, we hold the same commitment to consumer protections. I'm happy to say that we've actually already adopted this PACE consumer protection policy. And these consumer protections form a core part of our program. We're very excited to meet your recommendations for local governments and offer another PACE option to your constituents. Thank you very much.
Thank you. As this is a public hearing, does anyone else want to speak on this item? In favor of? Against? Does anyone want to speak at all? Then I will close the public hearing at 3:19 and bring it before the board. Sorry. Yep, sorry about that. Supervisor, First District. Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think one of my questions was just answered from the gentleman representing California First, a potential competitor to the private partner we have with Renovate America. I wanted to make sure that, because you may have mentioned, I may have misunderstood, that Renovate America helped you write this policy. Is that correct?
Yes, we were the ones that spearheaded WRCOG and Renovate America, and we did consult with other PACE providers to ensure that we are setting industry standards that could hopefully be adopted by all PACE providers in the subregion and hopefully across the state.
Very good. I was very worried because it appears on a second page of the staff report that, excuse me, 1.1 billion will be going through Renovate America under this policy we have of only one provider in the western half of the county, and it certainly seemed to be a little bit cozy to have the one firm who has all of the funding and all of the profits writing the policy that competitors may or may not adopt. So I'm glad to hear that a competitor has already agreed that this is a good policy, and so I appreciate staff reaching out to everybody and doing that. I know I'm on the minority here on the issue of whether or not we have just one provider for the entire county or the western half of the county, but I believe this sets the stage for true competition that we should all be advocating for on behalf of the consumer. So thank you.
Thank you. So with no further ado, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move staff's recommendation, third district.
Second, Benoit.
You get that? Please vote. And that motion passes 20 and 1 no vote.
Thank you.
I pushed the wrong button. I didn't have my glasses on. Sorry.
Thank you, sir. We got it.
Okay.
All right, next is the WRCOG TUMP program activities update.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Are you going to work this or am I? Okay, good. So I'm not good with. So my TUMP report to you today, the first item up is the proposed policy change for the admin plan. And what that does is, you know that our ordinance has a number of exemptions as part of the TUMP ordinance. And one of the things that we've found at times is jurisdictions are uncertain as to whether it really is exempt, and they'll call us. So I think what we have done is to try to sort of close some of that loop, and we're putting forward a policy that before a jurisdiction can exempt a project, the executive director or his designee will verify that that is a project that can be exempt from the TUMP program. So this is the language that would be inserted in Section 8D of our administrative plan to sort of eliminate that confusion and help our jurisdictions through. We do the same sort of thing with our credit agreements now. When you have a lot of turnover of staff, sometimes they're uncertain. So we do the same thing with a credit agreement. They show us what they're doing, and we write a letter, and it's pretty quick. We don't want to hold anybody's project up. So that's the proposed policy change that has gone through the Administration and Finance Committee last month, and it is coming to you today. The next item that I'd like to talk to you about is the construction cost index adjustment. As many of you know, when we rolled out the draft Nexus study, there was a collective gasp at some of the increases to the fees, especially in the non-residential sector. And there are a wide variety of reasons for that. But one of the reasons the fee was a little bit higher than we had anticipated is that we did not keep a buck through the ensuing years. And this body took policy action for good reason. You know, our economy was in free fall part of the time. We were still getting very low bids on our project, so it didn't necessarily seem appropriate to this body to index the fee. At some point, we lost track of how many years went by without indexing the fee, and now it's close to 8. So when we looked at that Nexus study, there was a 25% hiccup, essentially, that was due to a cost inflation. So one of the things that the Administration and Finance Committee said is, well, bring us back a CCI so that we can move forward. And as we've delayed the Nexus, as you know, to incorporate the SCAG, RTP, SCS plan into our Nexus, there'll be a period of time where you're still under the old Nexus study. Let's index that so that shock, that sticker shock, will be a little bit less when we finally get through the 2016 Nexus study. A draft CCI has been prepared, and we are taking that to the Public Works Committee this Thursday with several options for them to consider and to recommend to you. But this heartened the staff, and again, this is my last staff report, so it heartened the staff's heart to know that an elected body said, okay, enough has been enough. We need to index the fee and start moving forward. So that's coming to PwC. Here is sort of a proposed schedule. We don't anticipate this body taking action on the new Nexus study until December of 2016. So there's still an ample time. If you do just sort of the normal process of putting new fees in place as part of your new fiscal year, a fee could go into effect in June, which then gets you about a year of the new fee. Next slide. We've had several workshops regarding the TUMP Nexus study inputs. We did get a lot of feedback from a variety of sectors that didn't quite understand where we got the data from, what did it mean, how did we use that data. And so we had, so far, we've had 4, and we've got another one for January 27th, here again at the County Administration Center. There's a video of the workshop that you can watch if you've got 60 minutes to spare and are not real, you're wide awake at the end of the night. This will definitely start to zone you out and allow you to get to sleep later that night. I would like to thank Mayor Franklin, who sat through the entire hour, and Supervisor Jeffries, glutton for punishment, did an hour and then part of another one. So thank you very much, sir. But there is a lot of information that is part of this. There's 40 steps. If I can have the next slide. So here's our flow chart. This is what it looks like. And we went through each one of these. This first box is talking about the network, and the second box is the costs. And then the third box, the number 3 of that box, is the transit components. And all of that feeds down into how we develop Box 4 and Box 5, which is residential fees and the non-residential fees. And when you said go back and use the new growth forecast, that goes back to Box 1, Step 1. And I like to liken that to the train stations that you see where you've got the train coming in, and then it goes, and then you see the next schedule. And that's exactly what is going to happen when Darren and our new director, who, by the way, is here, Chris Gray, who we have hired, and you're going to love him. He is going to take this program right up to the next level. I'm, an old dog that just doesn't want to learn new tricks, I think, at this point. And Chris has a lot of that technical, that whole body of information that's really going to help move this program into the next phase of its evolution. And so I'm so happy that you're here, and I can sleep a lot easier. So this is what goes through, and at some point I think it might be beneficial to have a few workshops and touch on each one of these so that you have a very clear understanding of how complicated in some ways this program is that we've put together for you. What we have done is we've released an RFP to look at the world of fees and how do fees impact all of us. We're hoping that we'll get this study released this winter and then have some results for you in the spring. And so we're going to look at diffs and how, each one of you, what do you have in place at your jurisdiction? What do your neighbors in other counties have in place? What's the water district doing? What are we doing? What's the RCA? How do all of those fees impact development in Riverside County? And because they all sort of collectively have an impact. We want to look at what types of incentives your neighbors use, because we do hear a lot of, in San Bernardino, they don't have anything like this. Well, they do have a TUMF, but it's completely different than ours. And so what kind of incentives are they using? What's happening, in LA County next to us, Orange County next to us? What are they doing? What kinds of incentives that we might be able to use? So that's sort of the genesis of we want to look at fees and why we have them. And so hopefully I'll be around to read that riveting study that comes out. One of the things that that we've done quite often is our transportation annual report, our TUMF annual report. And this is the 10th year we've put this together. And we've collected $642 million. Last year we had a good year of $37 million, and I think this year, Ernie tells me, we're on track for over 40. So we are seeing a bit of a recovery. Each of your zones met all of your targets and then some. So this administrative amendment that we're doing to the TIP, when we go into the full TIP cycle, you'll really have some money to start talking about projects. But with this report, we felt it was important to also look back. We always talk to you about that fiscal year we just finished. It's important to look back and see what we've accomplished. We've also got a new product coming out that's 85 projects and counting, because that's how many projects we've completed since 2002. Between RCTC and WRCOG, or the measure, it's the transportation lifeblood of this county. And you should all be very proud that within 12 or 13 years, you've been able to deliver 85 projects. So this one will be 85 projects in counting. I don't know if Daniel every year is going to say 86 projects in counting, but we'll see. But I just wanted to sort of take a look back at some of the things that we've done. We've got Newport Road that's under construction, and we're anxiously waiting that to be finished. We're working on the Sunset Avenue grade separation in the city of Banning. Foothill Parkway, Westerly Extension that we've broken ground on. The Ramona Expressway Phase 2. And I've got a couple of more things to tell you about that. You think you're done. I wanted to point out that every city, every jurisdiction has had some project that we've worked on. Some of them we've already touched on. The city of Banning, the Sunset grade separation. In Calamasa, we did the Desert Lawn realignment and widening. Canyon Lake, we did Railroad Canyon Road widening. In Corona, we did the Magnolia I-15 interchange. In Eastvale, we did Hamner Avenue widening. In Hemet, we did the Salt Creek Bridge, a new bridge. The Harupa Valley, we're working on the Limonite Avenue widening. Lake Elsinore, the 74 I-15 interchange. In Menifee, the Newport Road I-15 interchange. In Moreno Valley, the Nason Street SR-60 interchange. In Marietta, the Clinton Keep Road I-215 interchange. Norco, Hamner Avenue widening. The City of Paris, State Route 74 4th Street I-215 interchange. Riverside, La Sierra Avenue SR-91 interchange. In San Jacinto, the Ramona Expressway widening. In Temecula, the French Valley Parkway I-15 interchange and overcrossing.
in the city of Wildemar, Clinton Keith I-15 interchange, and in the county of Riverside, Cantu Galliano and the I-15 interchange. And that's just one project in each one of your jurisdictions, and we always try to keep that balance. And I want to, again, remind you of how important this program is, and to steel your backbones to that political will and leadership that is coming in December of 2016. And hopefully we'll be able to say that it's 90 projects and counting. But again, I wish you the best on that. And there's more than one project on each one of these, but I knew we are pressed for time, and I couldn't name them all. We also have the 5-year TIP amendment that's going on. 2 of my jurisdictions wanted to meet and discuss priorities for the upcoming TIP. And we have met in the city's, the southwest zone, and identified our top 3 projects for the next 5 years. So we look forward to Railroad Canyon, Bundy Canyon Road, and the French Valley interchange as moving forward. We are meeting with the PASS later this week, I think, and we'll be also looking at how we move forward in setting the priorities and trying to get each one of those set up so that Chris won't have to fight too hard to, get those tips done. Ernie has completed all of the TUMF annual reports, and we did an audit for Lake Elsinore this year. So Lake Elsinore's audit was this year, and there'll be another lucky winner next year as Ernie goes through and does this for each one of you. But we really haven't found any anomalies as part of that exercise. And with that, Mr. Chair, that concludes my report, and the recommendation on the board is to approve the policy for the executive director to approve all exemptions.
Thank you. We have a couple speakers. Supervisor Jeffries.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I won't comment on the TUMF hearings because I actually learned a lot sitting through a hearing and a half of that, just about the fine details that staff goes through. And while I don't agree with the outcome, not that they were wrong calculations, just the impact they'll have on our economy to the business community, I do appreciate that those are undergoing further studies. And I hope that this body will potentially exempt or reduce fees for those businesses and jobs we want to create in Riverside County, because I firmly believe that if those fees are adopted, we will chase every new business out of this county. When you have a 50 to 60% increase in commercial fees, it's going to be tough to build here. What I wanted to touch on was your proposal about cities having to obtain, in the county, written approval from the director when we have disputes and exempt or reduced fees going forward. During my time in the state legislature, there was a gentleman, legislator, I think had served in the Senate before the Assembly, a Democrat from LA, who would stand up and just rail against what he called the unlawful delegation of authority, and whereby entities, elected bodies, were giving up their authority to unelected bodies and unelected individuals. I see this as a touch of that. When a city or a county that created this entity then has to turn around and get permission from that entity that it no longer has majority vote over in order to conduct business within its own jurisdiction, that's an unlawful delegation of authority. To me, an elected official, city council or supervisor, does not have the right to delegate future elected officials, delegate away their authority, and give that sole authority for approval to one appointed official in a JPA that was created by its members. And so I think the sovereign right of the cities and the county do not allow us, as individuals representing our entities, to give this approval today, because I see this as unlawful. We retain the sole right as city council members or supervisors to decide what we want to exempt or reduce, and then we can fight it out with WRCOG if we believe it's questionable, where it's exempt from previous action. We should never agree to give away our authority as required here and have the approval of a staff member before we can act. That's not how this works. So, again, I'll probably be in the minority on this. I respect and understand that, but that's why I'll be voting no on that particular item today. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Calamesa.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Surprisingly, I'm leaning the same way with Supervisor Jeffries, and mainly because I don't talk to him that often. I'm surprised to hear that he's looking at things I'm looking at. First of all, I'm happy to hear that you are looking at neighboring agencies as to what incentives they do to keep their fees down, whatever it might be. And mainly because Calamasa is within a block, our city hall, of the county line. So we compete directly with San Bernardino County in Sandbag. Right now, their fee in the neighboring city of Yucaipa is $2.90 a square foot for a retail commercial. And we're already at $10.59, I think, and the proposal is to go to 18-something, although I hear it might be reduced from that. But I think we have to look at the competitive factors involved in attracting business and jobs. And I know Calamasa has been suffering for a number of years by not being able to compete with that. We have on our other side, we have the city of Beaumont that doesn't have a fee, or however their fees arranged, it's not apparent. So, in essence, Calamasa, the city of Banning, is probably sitting in a position where we have a lot of competition. And so I would like for you to do that study, or our new guy, Chris, to look at what kind of incentives can lower that fee for individual cities, especially when we're sitting in a unique position. And the other thing I want to bring up is the blue sentence here in my deal. I was going to propose that we do a change in that prior to exempting a project from the payment of TUMF, participating jurisdictions shall approve at the ARCOG Executive Committee the right to be exempt. I think it's something that, rather than giving it to the director, it would probably make it easier on the director that any kind of approval or disapproval would come from the Executive Committee. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay. Temecula.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can I have some clarification? There's some comment as to the next study and that what we'll do next December, but the action before us today is a couple of things. To approve getting any sort of agreements approved by this body so that they're TUMF qualified exempt. And then there's a list of exemptions. What exactly is maybe Supervisor Jeffries could elaborate, what exactly is the discrepancy?
If staff wants to put up that initial slide, there's one before that that actually reflects what's in the staff report on
The initial slide.
that one right there. The blue is the concern I have where it says shall obtain written approval from the executive director. So if a city or the county wants to reduce or exempt based on what they believe is a legal established standing with that developer in advance, they don't have to come on knees begging for approval from a staff member. They have the right. It is their right as an elected body to make that determination. Under this, they have to comply with this. I don't see how that's constitutional. I agree with the proposal that, or close to it, that they should consult. I think anybody in their right mind would consult, and we could even suggest that they have to consult in writing. But I don't think we want to claim that as a JPA, we have the final say in what a city or county can do.
Mr. Chair, may I respond?
Yes.
Yeah. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think when we discuss this aspect in the Admin and Finance Committee, the purpose behind it, if I may be so bold, is and if I'm on point, there was some litigation occurring between Lake Elsinore and this body in which a number of development projects were exempt. And it turned out that they shouldn't have been exempt. And we came back and said, it's probably a safeguard measure that before you put a development agreement in place, that you make sure it's copacetic with RCOG, and that would save this body from litigating with one of its members, which is, really at the end of the day, a real conundrum. If you think about it, it's very difficult. And I believe that's why that was inserted there. But I will tell you, I didn't ponder what you brought up, and so maybe we can tweak the language if it needs to be tweaked to address your concern, but to also address the concern of the Admin and Finance Committee recommendation.
Okay. We have a couple more people that want to speak. Supervisor Washington.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We're still in the throes of the litigation with the city of Beaumont. And I think we kind of started down the path where we ended up back when I was chair of WRCOG in 2007. And some of the issues that came up during the dialogue and then the attempt to find some middle ground that we could live with before actually going all the way to court, we talked about what it means to be a part of the TUMF program, what you sign up for when you agree to be a part of the TUMF program, because along with the collection of TUMF, you're also putting yourself, your city, your jurisdiction in line for Measure A dollars. There was some enabling legislation that preceded the establishment of TUMF. I believe I forwarded a link for that, some of that data to Supervisor Jeffries, AB 1600, which sort of created a framework that organizations were to follow before they could establish a program that would collect fees, especially in the post-Prop 218 days, where before that, agencies implemented fees and whatnot without getting some sort of approval. And so we all had to go back and have that voted on. But this legislation allowed us to establish TUMF, and part of the establishment of that TUMF was conducting a nexus study. And so we said, and we agreed, that within our TUMF program, and correct me, Ruth Ann, if I get this wrong, but 49% would go towards a zone area, 49% would go to the entire region, and the remaining 2%, I think, goes to RTA. Is that about?
That was in the first nexus, so you're right.
Right. So we all agreed that that was going to be how we would collect TUMF. And the nexus study that established the framework for that and the foundation for that said, well, then this is what you'll need to collect to build the projects you want to build, assuming everybody's going to adhere to those rules. If you didn't want to be a part of the TUMF program, you had the option of not being a part of the TUMF program, but then you would not be able to collect that full amount, because if you weren't going to contribute to the regional component and everything else agreed to in the TUMF program, then there's no nexus to what you're asking the development community to pay. So I think where Beaumont got tripped up was they were collecting funds but not turning over what they should have to WRCOG. And a judge agreed with us that that was not the way it should have been done. And I think the bill is still rising because we've not gotten any of those TUMF dollars. Not only did they collect an amount that probably wasn't appropriate if it was staying within the city, but some of the funding was being spent, as I recall, on projects that weren't even TUMF eligible. Some of them weren't even road projects. So the framework that we created for TUMF that we all here, sitting here, agreed to is that we would collect a set amount. Now, we can disagree with staff's recommendation on what that amount might be. I don't agree with everything that might be coming forward as a proposal, and I too am concerned about our economic vitality within this region. But I think if individual jurisdictions break away from the TUMF program and begin making unilateral decisions about what part of the TUMF program they like or don't like and when they're going to exempt, then I think, and we can ask legal counsel about it, but I think at that point, the jurisdiction would probably be better served to exit the TUMF program because the TUMF program doesn't work with us making individual unilateral decisions. I think that's fairly clear.
Supervisor Tavaloni.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Excuse me, a very interesting discussion. In listening to Supervisor Jeffrey's concern, I understand exactly where he's coming from in terms of the Nexus study and the concerns of pushing businesses, certain sectors of businesses out, or not welcoming them in to a community. We've had that discussion, Ruth Ann and I and Rick, and I brought in a group of experts, experts in the retail sector, longtime friends of mine that I used to work with when I was in that sector, in the commercial real estate field. They were not at the table 13 years ago. Those are the group that I talked about. And much has changed since then. We had a tough time bringing in the industrial folks back then. The ones that were at the table, very fiercely fighting, were the residential folks. And so much has changed since we brought this thing, since we brought the TUMP, started talking about the TUMP 12 years ago, 14, 15 years ago, whenever it was. And if we were to implement what was being discussed a few months back, you would definitely push them. They wouldn't be coming here. They won't be coming here. None of your cities would be seeing them because the fees are too high. They just wouldn't be able to survive because the numbers that have been that they were working off of are based on old numbers. I mean, 20-year-old numbers, 20-year-old projections. And look what's changed in 20 years. We didn't have computers. We didn't have cell phones. And so that's why we all agreed to step back and give it a lot more time to move forward. Now, let's talk about Supervisor Jeffrey's concern as to, so I agree with him on that. I agree with him on that. We need to do some fine-tuning on the numbers and look at this Nexus study and make sure that it's right, and I mean damn right. But yet, when we look at a program, when we look at a regional program, that's exactly what it is. Ruth Ann mentioned when we first started talking about this, I said, I want to see it like the Coachella Valley, and if no one else wants to do it, I want it in my district. Well, they taught me very quickly that you just can't do it in your district because then it won't be a regional program, and it just can't work. I needed some education on that, and they educated me and explained to me why it can't work. Why can't it work? Because it all works. You know, it's in numbers. You got to do it in numbers. Look what happened to Beaumont. Look why we're where we are with Beaumont, and to a certain extent, Lake Elsinore. It's got to be a regional program, and why? If any city can exempt themselves out of the program, then you can be darn sure that there's going to be competition to do that. Then we're not going to have anything. We're not going to have any regional. You're not going to have 85 projects. Trust me. You will not have 85 projects. You'll be lucky if you have 10 major projects that you can leverage with Measure A, that you can leverage with federal transportation dollars just won't have it. I guarantee you won't have it. I won't be around to guarantee it, but you will not be able to. Coachella Valley has been around for how long? 20 years now? Their TUMP program?
Like about 1988, 87, I think.
Yeah.
So,
and they're successful, and it's regional. The only one that we don't have in the program is Beaumont, right?
yes, sir.
And they owe us, what, $50 million because they haven't been around and growing?
It's growing. It's our best investment. It's
So
probably up to about 68.
Let's just step back a bit and say, okay, yes, it's nice to exempt, but in the end, we're all in this together, and that's to build regional infrastructure for the benefit of our region, because in fact, look at what Riverside just said. Look what happened, county, when you take Mid-County Parkway off the table. It affects them, even though it's 5 miles away. It affects the whole system, and it does.
Damien.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would just like to agree with Councilmember Hyatt's comment about just insert for where the blue line is, that it would be the Admin and Finance Committee, because then you're looking at other electeds, making the decision, and if there's anything that we can do to keep there from being any issues afterwards, it would be better to get them rectified before we get into any kind of litigious situation in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Great. Go ahead.
Thank you.
I don't know. Are you?
There we go.
Okay.
I think I'm on. A couple of things. And Supervisor Washington was very articulate, and Supervisor Tavallone, it's interesting as it relates to future economics. In the Admin and Finance Committee, we had a lengthy discussion about just that, and not only that, about what the impact of e-commerce is and how that changes traffic patterns, which, changes the nexus of something, and, what happens when, truck trips are now, happening between midnight and 3 in the morning, and the impact's less. I mean, the old way of doing things with these typical nexus studies that we've done them for 20 or 30 years, it's just changing because the world's changing. Exactly what you said. But I want to bring us back to a couple of things. And I think the issue that Supervisor Jeffries brought up was he didn't want somebody sitting in a chair or a perceived bureaucrat having to make these administrative decisions. But a couple of thoughts. Aren't the exemptions already listed in the TUMF ordinance? So this is just pretty much a judgment call to make sure that a municipality asking for an exemption is either to make sure a development agreement qualifies or to make sure that the definition fits the definition in the TUMF ordinance. And that's to eliminate any future controversy. The only reason why I would say it's okay if we clarify that that's what it's for. In other words, you could just put a couple of words in the example you said as it relates to clarification of the TUMF ordinance. If there's any, anyway, you could stick a very couple of words in there and clear it up. There is an advantage to letting an administrator do it. And if I'm putting my developer hat on, I really don't want to, try to get it on an agenda. The board doesn't meet. It takes me 6 weeks. It really bogs down the system. When a simple clarification to see if it complies with the TUMF ordinance is just a safeguard measure. And probably 98% of the time, the administrator is going to go, oh, yeah, and rubber stamp it because it does. It's just a stopgap measure. Where it might be nebulous, correct me if I'm wrong, there could be an appeal to the subcommittee from the administrator's decision. So I don't think anybody's given up their rights to take it a little bit further. So, I'm okay because Supervisor Jeffries, I like some of the things that you bring up. If you needed to throw a couple of words in there that says, clarification as to the TUMF ordinance, and just clear it up a little bit, that's fine. But we had this discussion in Admin and Finance as a safety measure, and nothing more than that. That was the intent.
Our council wants to speak.
Well, I think Director Nagar sort of touched on it. I thought one thing we could do would be to add a sentence following the bold sentence that said that the decision of the executive director may be appealed to, and you can put in admin and finance committee or executive committee or whatever, because I do believe that in most cases the decision would be perfunctory and could be made could be made by the executive director. So that would be my suggestion.
Thank you. You were Valley.
I think part of what I was going to ask was clarified. Listening to the discussion, I think Supervisor Jeffries brought up a very good point. I think when you have a JPA that isn't directly elected, you have to be very careful. And I know the executive director, just in conversations that we have, is very aware of that and the perception of how we all look to the public. But I really appreciate you bringing it up today, because I hadn't really thought about it in that regard. And yet I'm hearing exactly why admin and finance, was suggesting it as a safety measure. So my question, which I think got answered, was a jurisdiction can't just arbitrarily exempt a project. My understanding is there's a certain list of criteria under which it could be exempted. Is that the case?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So I wonder if we do adjust some of the wording and maybe include that clarifying sentence if they're asking for an exemption that maybe doesn't fit the criteria or is questionable in regard to the criteria. I don't know. Or even stating that there is criteria for an exemption. Because if in reading the paragraph here, and maybe there's more in the full document, I didn't come away with that there was a certain list of, these are the few things that you can ask for an exemption on. Because I totally understand if we just have people willy-nilly asking for exemptions, it breaks down the whole program. But I get the idea.
You'd be surprised what we get, though.
Oh, even with the list?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So, I don't know, I just probably added to the confusion, but I think I understand a little better where it came from and what you're trying to do, what the goal is, and I get that. We're trying to prevent a few of the situations that have happened in the past, and that makes a lot of sense. But I am very sensitive to that subject of we are not directly elected. So it's kind of difficult if a jurisdiction is asking for something and then it's just going right up to the executive director who really isn't elected. You know what I mean? I don't know, it's a tough situation, but I can see where it needs to be clarified if that helps.
I think one of the issues, and Councilman Nagar certainly hit on several of them as part of the Admin and Finance Committee, and the reason why the Executive Director, Coach Rick, brought this forward is that we've often been asked to write those letters, and I have said no. I'm not going to write that. That's in your ordinance. And so we also have jurisdictions asking us to make that approval rather than a phone call. Is this good? And I say yes. Well, will you write me a letter that says that? So that's one, I think, of the sort of the clarification pieces that comes in when I have someone that's not sure of that in the ordinance. Well, it says this, but I want a letter from ARCOG, so I'm safe. So I think that's one of the reasons that we brought that forward. The other piece is in times when we're scouring the agendas and looking for things, because we read all those and we see a development agreement or we see an exemption, then we call, are you doing this? Well, we didn't know if we could. So there wasn't that collaboration that we were seeing on a fairly regular basis, which became important, that clarification. The piece of having it be administrative was exactly as Councilman Nagar said. We don't want to hold anybody's project up.
The letters that we do for the credit agreement are, yes, you're using the right legal document to enter into this. Yes, that facility is on the TUMP network. Yes, you have used the correct value. You still, as that jurisdiction, have that right to enter into that credit agreement. But they have a piece of paper that says, okay, I've checked all the right boxes, and we do that in about 3 days. Or faster, depending on if we start, as you all know, winding this through every exemption through this body, I could have a project proponent waiting for quite some time simply for an exemption. And so we were looking to try to do that as an administrative, very quick sort of, yes, this project is exempt, or no, it's not. What haven't you told us about this project that you think it is? And start that collaboration, which Supervisor Jeffries pointed out. We do need to have more of that. But I think that was the genesis of why we thought this would be an important piece to bring that together.
Mr. Chair, can I share one other thing?
Sure.
Again, getting a little bit more into even some more detail why we had the discussion, was there were some that brought up a good argument that said everybody needs to pay their TUMP, period, paragraph, and that made every sense in the world. The other side of the argument was, listen, it makes no sense for this body to be litigating with one of its member bodies, because in reality, just taking, for instance, the Lake Elsinore Fair, and I don't want to get into that in detail, but if Lake Elsinore ends up owing this body millions of dollars, we all lose, for instance, or Beaumont. If their police services get cut, if their park services get cut, we don't want to see a city fail. So the idea was, how do we prevent that in the future? In other words, we don't want to set up a situation where somebody made the wrong determination and it came back to bite them 10 years or 5 years later. I don't know what our statute of limitations is. 3 years later, oh, by the way, city, you should have paid, an extra $1 million or $2 TUMP. And they go, wait a minute, we didn't think we had to. We were exempt. We thought it was exempt. That was the purpose behind it, because, again, suing one of our member bodies can never be, there's no really good outcome from that, no matter what, on both sides of the argument. And that's where the genesis of this whole conversation came from.
We have a couple more people speak, but before they do, let me just clarify. Let's not put Lake Elsinore and Beaumont in the same.
Right. No, exactly, and I
want to be clear on that first.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Yeah.
And secondly, to your point, and I'm glad you brought it up, the situation that involves Lake Elsinore, how long did it take you to actually find that? So I support this, and the reason why I support it is because Lake Elsinore wouldn't have even been down this road had they come forward and said, hey, it's just a project that was legal. And we found out that some of them there's some questionable, but Lake Elsinore is 127 years old. Not too many of you can say that other than the city of Riverside. So there's a lot of stuff that's really old in our city, and for new cities that will probably never experience some of these things. So as we look at things, as we continue to look at things or go back and look at old agreements, we're probably going to have other ones for Elsinore, I believe, that could be questionable. And Lake Elsinore has always paid their fair share. But some of these things go back well before, 8, 9 years, and it took an audit. And how often do we audit? You said Lake Elsinore was audited this year. Who's the next person on the audit?
We audit every jurisdiction every year, and we knew that Elsinore had some DAs. And because when we go in and do the audit, it's for the year before, and it's like, oh, wait, there's some exemptions here. So it was about 2 years before staff all sat down and said, wow, here's this big list we need to go through. So it could be a year to 2 years before the audit process. We start talking before we jump in and say. So we were 2 years down the road before we recognized the situation as what it
and that's my point. Had we sat down and sort of looked at this thing, we could have probably, So anyway, Supervisor Jeffries.
So is the one that created this mess for you this afternoon?
In your district, sir.
Thank you very much. Just real quickly, I fully, completely understand AB 1600. It applies to water districts, park districts, everybody else. been dealing with it for 25 years. I get it. This isn't about AB 1600 and nexus to fees. This is not about this. Democracy is supposed to be messy, and how to prevent, if we're looking at how to prevent disputes, recognize you're going to do this at the cost of sacrificing sovereign rights of your entities. By granting and I apologize, I don't mean to say it this way, granting a bureaucrat that is not employed by your city or county, not under control of your city council or your board of supervisors, final absolute say in whether or not you can proceed with granting an exemption, and I'm not advocating new exemptions, I'm talking about old exemptions, because there are disputes about developments that occurred before this came into place. If you are going to give those rights to that individual, you are doing damage to what this is supposed to be. It is not supposed to be a dictatorship. This is supposed to be built on consensus. This is supposed to be built on everyone agreeing that this is for the greater good, but no harm shall come to anybody. I mean, that's how government's supposed to work. We are going to take away the rights of city councils and supervisors and give it to one individual to decide up or down whether or not a project is entitled to exemptions that we've already established. I don't imagine anybody at any time ever imagined that kind of authority was going to be vested in one person. That's what this is about. That's my argument today. I don't mind being the only red, but I'm not going to trivialize this. So that's it.
Mr. Chair, we have other people in the queue. Calamesa.
Thank you again. I'd like to clear up, in my mind, this body is administering the program. I mean, staff works for us. This TUMF program is our program. And so if there's any appeal, whether it's at admin and finance or if it's here at the executive committee, it's the proper way to go. And that's why I don't think that we should put our executive director in the middle of something where he has to answer to all of us. And the more we understand, we as an executive committee, the better off we are. When I came back in 2006, remember Beaumont was well down the tube, and it took me 2 years to find out what was going on in Beaumont, even though I knew they weren't a good neighbor. So even if admin and finance makes decision this controversial, they need to bring this back. Admin and finance need to come back to this body. That's all I've got to say. Thank you.
Moreno Valley.
Thank you. I had a little bit of concerns in the language myself, so I sat here quietly listening to everybody's comments. And I have a tendency to agree with Ms. Franklin, Mr. Jeffries, Hyatt, some of the others. The language in this would be very broad, and it could be misinterpreted by those. So as I sat here, I was writing down a few words that might help, and it might help Mr. Jeffries as well. Instead of saying obtain written approval, maybe we should just say obtain written review and recommendation. And at the very end, then say, and if required, direction or approval by the appropriate council. That way you still have the executive director in the loop to say, as I believe was mentioned, that there's a whole lot of requests. So by getting a recommendation, you're not approving, but the necessary approval would come to this full body or the other smaller committee. And if we do something like that, I'd be much more in favor of it. Otherwise, I would probably vote no as well.
Temecula.
Yeah, maybe we can make short works of this. The list of exemptions are already in the ordinance. It's already appealable, okay, the way the ordinance is written. We, just for a safeguard measure, we should add to it that, just so it's clear that it is appealable up to the admin and finance and eventually this body. Please, just again, being in the development industry, don't add another layer of bureaucracy that somebody has to go through that's going to add 30, 60, 90 days to getting through. And then as to the language, just put the director or wherever the executive director will confirm that it's TUMF exempt. Okay, that's all. That he adds confirmation that it's TUMF exempt. And just to, again, a church is building a sanctuary, but the part of the sanctuary would be TUMF exempt, but there's a part of the sanctuary that may not be TUMF exempt, where maybe they're doing a kitchen or a special occasion facilities. It's not for worship. Somebody has to make that determination. They go in there and they call the whole thing exempt. 3 years later, this organization is going to want to be paid for that annex that got the exemption. Okay? And it's going to be a burden on the city, a burden on the church, or what have you. Just giving you an example. And there's dozens of these examples. However, that could be given to the administrator and goes, oh, no, that's an annex. What's it going to be used for, et cetera, et cetera. No, that's not TUMF exempt. That church, that city, can appeal right away to the admin and finance, okay, if they disagree with that exemption. It is not delegating authority. It is not delegating sovereignty. The ability to appeal is already there. So if we want to clear it up, that's fine. This is actually to streamline and to make sure that future cities don't suffer from misunderstandings. And one thing I didn't say, again, when one of our neighbor cities suffers, for instance, if through this litigation Lake Elsinore suffers and has to make changes in the way it does business, that affects Wildemar. That affects Murrieta. Eventually affects Temecula. We're all in this together. So this is just a stopgap measure to make sure mistakes don't happen. So I'm going to move the item. I'm going to add that we add the word, the executive director will confirm that it's TUMF direct, and that at all times it's appealable to the Admin and Finance Committee, and further on up to the Executive Committee as desired. And if you want to bring back a fee schedule, if there's any fees involved in that, I'm not for fees in that regard, because I agree with Supervisor Jeffries. You should always have redress of your government, and it should not be onerous. So if it's a ministerial fee.
I'll offer up a second, but I want to make one modification to your motion. You said, I think you used the word direct when you meant exempt.
Yes, that's correct.
And then I don't know that there's any point in appealing it to the Admin and Finance Committee, because all they can do is make a recommendation to this body, the Executive Committee. So if there's going to be an appeal, I mean, I guess it could go to the Admin and Finance Committee, and then that body could make a recommendation to this body. But again, now we're probably talking about 60 days or more delay, government getting in the way.
Yeah, and that's the goal, is to get government out of the way. Okay, so I'm okay with amending my motion. Do you want to skip over the admin?
So the director has confirmed that it is TUMF exempt, but in any case, it is appealable to the Executive Committee by way of the Admin and Finance Committee? What is it?
What is your current process now?
Can I, before
Yeah.
we kind of go back and forth, does this have to be passed today?
No, it does not have to be passed.
And the reason I say that, because if we're trying to change language on a rush, and I'm not sure that we're going to do the best job with this, and maybe we can bring this back for the February meeting. And the reason why I say February, because our next Admin and Finance meeting is on this Wednesday, and then we have a chance, give staff a chance to work on the language and some of the other parts that we have some issues with, and then we can bring it back to the Executive Committee in February. I'd like to make that motion. Okay.
Third.
I got a second. Any opposed? Do you want us to push the button, Janice, or are we good? Push the button. Janice said we have to push the button, we push the button. Is to bring this back, bring it back before the Admin and Finance, and then bring it back to this body in February, in the February meeting.
Can you just continue it off calendar and bring it back when you're ready?
Just point of order, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
Let's be clear on what we're asking to be brought back, because I made a specific motion that mentions specific language. Are we meandering around that language, or what are we bringing back?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think there were several folks that added language here, and
So let's be clear on the intent of what we're bringing back.
Okay.
Okay, the intent is to make it something that is non-binding by this bureaucrat. I like that word, bureaucrat, because we all know him when we see him, Supervisor Jeffries, and I don't like it either. All right, so it's non-binding by this bureaucrat. And by the way, nobody here is a bureaucrat, but the person 10 years from now, when we're all gone, is the bureaucrat. Okay. It's non-binding by the bureaucrat. It's for some form of confirmation of the TUMF ordinance, not an approval of the TUMF ordinance, and that it's appealable. So language to that effect, if I've nailed it. Okay. And if you can throw in the word bureaucrat in the ordinance, you get extra bonus points.
Okay. She's out of here tomorrow. She's not doing that. Did you still want to talk?
No, yes, but I mean, you beat me to the punch on that one. But it might even be wise to come back with several samples of different language that could be used in this particular case, so we could discuss it with something we're working for, not just keep adding, well, this is good, that's good, but you know what I'm talking about.
We'll offer that you can have chocolate or vanilla. You know,
okay.
I don't want to give you guys too many examples.
Just a couple good sample examples of what we're discussing.
Nobody ever said democracy wasn't going to be messy, okay?
So those that haven't voted, please vote.
Are we off calendar or February? Is that the motion?
I modified a motion that it be off calendar until we're ready. So I guess I'll need a second.
The longer it's off calendar, the more happier I am, because that reserves your rights as city council members.
And we have a second on that. Okay.
Was the second by City of Calamasa?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, and that passes 15-0. All right. Ruth Ann, your last item. Just yeah. I know. Let me ask our superintendent of school if we want to still go with this, or...
Well, I've talked to our two superintendents, and they would like to spend a few minutes with you and change the subject, perhaps, to something that's a little more interesting.
Okay.
So, Mr. Chair, if I might just introduce them. I'd like to introduce
yes, sir.
Patrick Kelly, who is the superintendent of Marietta Valley Unified School District, and Mike McCormick, who's the superintendent of Val Verde Unified. And let me just say that we have been working diligently to try to increase the number of students in our county who are ready for post-secondary education when they leave high school. That's been a nagging problem with our region for a while. I'm happy to report that we've increased, in the last 2 years, we've increased the percentage of students that are ready in mathematics by 50.6%, in English language arts by 10.2%. The challenge is many of these students don't have the resources now to get into college. And so there is a project that we brought last year to share with the WRCOG that they would like to highlight again and ask for your involvement and support in to helping these students get access to this. So I'll turn it over to my colleagues here.
Thank you, Ken. Well, it's a pleasure being here today, and we'll be brief and want to share with you the work of 23 school districts in Riverside County and our focus on college and career readiness and how important that is. Not only college and career readiness, but the persistence and success beyond that. So the K-12 partners within the county are very focused on this one aspect that we'd like to share with you today about FAFSA completion. And FAFSA is free application for federal student aid. And I'll turn it over to Mr. McCormick.
Thank you for receiving us today. We're pleased to be here. And we have a program. It actually started off as a White House initiative that was convened at the U.S. Department of Education. And our operation here in Riverside County is entitled Race to Submit. It's the mission to FAFSA submission. And if we can go to the second slide there, here's why we'd like to point out that we'd like to invite you to participate in this. The future impact on California economy is anywhere between $11 and $18 million. And that's for every dollar that California invests for students who go to college, the state gets a net return on investment of $4.50 in the form of increased taxes versus students who become adults that require social services or potentially incarceration. So before the Race to Submit challenge began in 2014, we had a completion rate of 52.3%. After 1 year, the class of 2015 was at 63.1% as of June 30th, 2015. And I'll let you take a look at the rest of the information on that slide and just tell you that that increase was done with no financial assistance. We did that with $0. And so this is where we'd like to highlight some of our achievements. Let's go to the next slide. So for that year, we had an additional Cal Grant GPA submitted of 24,000. We had GPA submitted, the total percent was 99.4. And we had additional FAFSAs completed of 3,201. Additional Cal Grant A's awarded was 215. Cal Grant B's was 858. That's somewhere between $2 and $4 million additional that went to our students in Riverside County. So we're very, very excited about that. Next couple of slides here, we had a contest. And you can see we had small, medium, and large high school. And I will tell you that those are the numbers of graduates. So when you look at, for example, Santiago High School, between 551 and 880 graduates. That's a school of over 3,500 students. And they were all recognized, and that was as of March 2nd. And then as of June 30th, we recalibrated, and you can see John F. Kennedy Middle College High School was there, Jurupa Valley High School, and then the large school winner was La Sierra High School. So we'd encourage you, if those schools are in your area, that you may reach out to them and recognize. And then the very next slide we have was the winner of La Sierra High School. We'd encourage you, and here's really our ask today. We have a website that you can go to. It's Race to Submit there, and we'd love to see you link from your agency over to the Race to Submit website and really help us to promote this. And here's a couple of things that we'd ask you to do. And again, we're not here to ask for money. We're simply here to ask for your good intentions and for you to use the positions that you all have to join us in this coalition of building a college and career readiness Riverside County. And so partner with your districts to learn more about FAFSA completion, share messages in social media, and also advertise and support on your website and link over to our website. And then consider attending a Cash for College night. We think that's a great thing for you to do. And we'd also encourage you to maybe, the high schools are in competition with each other. Any chance we can get the cities to be in competition with each other? Have a similar thing where we keep track. And so one of the things we'd like to offer for you is some social media messages that would be pre-written, that you can just put in your information. Also, we'd like to offer you press releases, something that you can send out. FAFSA season will begin 1 January 2016 and run for a couple of months, and so we wanted to give you some advance notice on that. And I think what I'd like to do at this time is turn it over to my colleague here, and he's the closer. So thank you very much.
As we talk about college and career ready, it's so important, as I share and all of my superintendent colleagues share, as we shake the hands of graduates who are walking across the stage, not one of them is ready for their next step. They need more education. But in today's world, that education can come in many different ways: a 2-year, a 4-year, a trade school, a technical school. FAFSA opens that door for so many students that automatically think that that door is shut. And so what we would like to do is make it very easy and submit opportunities to connect and support this effort, and we'd like to do that, and any support that we can have from you in the community would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any comments?
Oh, yes. Don't think you're getting away. Does everybody see Brenda? She's got a graduating senior this year. Given the fact that my daughter is an IB student and is riding with a 4.3 GPA right now and has just been accepted to NAU, I am a very happy parent. However, I can't pay for it. So I want to know when this Cash for College night is happening, and how do we find out where and when these events take place, because I have yet to hear about any of them, because I'm going to be the first person standing in line.
Financial aid nights occur regularly through your high schools, and checking through counselor websites, it very much gears up after January.
I think, one of the things I think that we can provide is through Superintendent Young's office, we might be able to get a collection of when those Cash for College nights are going to be happening around the county, and we'd love to forward that information to your agency.
Brenda, what high school does your daughter attend?
Marietta Valley Unified. Love it. Marietta Valley High School.
Okay.
Yes, in the 3rd district.
Just saying.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments? Thank you for changing the pace today. Thank you. All right. Next on our agenda is the report from the WRCOG Technical Advisory Committee Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd just like to wish everybody a safe and wonderful holiday season. And to Ruth Ann, love you, miss you, and good luck managing your new TUMP program.
And I think TAC was closed. You didn't have a meeting this week.
Yeah, we had a TAC meeting and really don't have anything to add to the agenda for today.
So what a dedicated TAC chair. He hangs with me to the end. I appreciate that. All right. Next is report from the committee representatives. So we have the SCAG Policy Council Policy Committee. Any comments? Are they still here? Anyone? Mayor Franklin? No?
Yes, the RTP.
No, they all follow.
I did attend the meeting. It was lengthy on the RTP and SCS. It was a good meeting. Some of the public comments, we had 20 speakers. They got 3 minutes apiece, so you can understand how long that went. They were talking things like trying to figure out how to get around the gas tax, VMT or whatever. And we have someone on SCAG that sits on the state committee from Santa Monica. So we do have some input on what's going to happen there. But it was good, and we passed it along and to the public, released everything to the public for comment now for 60 or 90 days. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Bannon, did you?
Yes, mine is more from the League of Cities. I know you asked for SCAG, but I figured this would be a good place to talk about. For the policy chairs and for regional council, we had a conference in the middle of November. And out of that conference, we talked about what the 3 top areas are going to be for this coming year. It was tough, but we came up with the 3 being working on the infrastructure, both water and electric, as well as transportation. The second one had to do with affordable housing for all income levels, and we try to figure out how to tweak in their homelessness. And the third one was increasing revenue streams such as e-commerce. Those would be the 3 areas that the League will be focusing on in the upcoming legislative year. And then the other thing that we talked about was they're working on a health exchange for municipalities to see if there's a way to help reduce the insurance cost for our public entities. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. And anything from the Air Quality Management District?
We had an item on the agenda this week that, Jim, if we had 20 speakers, I would have been elated. We had about 120. They got about 2 minutes each. Usually it's 3. We dropped it down to 2. But a lengthy discussion on just how much to shave off the NOx output from all the refineries across the air basin. The environmentalists would like to have seen 15. Staff wanted 14. We settled on 12 after a lot of debate. That's what 12 is what the industry was really sort of pushing for. So if anyone has any questions on that, I can say that as far as I can tell, I've been looking at, we don't have any, the companies that were in the air basin out here in Riverside that were concerned about it. They never brought any comments to me, but we did hear a lot of concern from a lot of concerned residents in the Coachella Valley and Riverside as far as smog goes on the environmental side. So
That would have been nice to have 20. Right, Ruth Ann?
That's it. Thank you. Report from our executive director.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll make it brief. Wanted to let you know that we just concluded our 2015 holiday LED light exchange. These are very successful, and we hope to do even more of these events next year. We handed out several hundred strings of LED lights to residents within all the jurisdictions in western Riverside County. So we'll look to continue to build upon that. Secondly, we were notified last week from the Inland Empire Economic Partnership that WRCOG is receiving its 2015 Public Partner of the Year Award, so we'll get that award at its event, I believe, in January. We were also notified a week or so ago that WRCOG, Eastern Municipal Water District, and Western Municipal Water District, as the co-administrators of the Water Task Force, received recognition from the Public Relations Society of America for the Water Task Force activities and the award is for the highest standards of public relations performance. So we're very appreciative that Western, on all of our behalf, submitted the Water Task Force for the award, and certainly are grateful for the recognition. And then lastly, I know so many great words have been said about Ruth Ann, and I can only add to that and want to thank you personally so much, Ruth Ann, for all the work you've done for me and for us. I know that she's got the hat on. Is it the right way? Is that a yes or a no hat? I'm not quite sure. But Ruth Ann, I mean, we've been through quite a journey together for 15 years, and I look back when I first started here, and there was a lot of work to do starting here with this agency, and the one person that I knew would really be able to help reflect on what's worked and what hasn't worked and to help build the agency in the future has been Ruth Ann. And she's, we give her accolades for the TUMF program, which is no small feat. I mean, it's despite this exemption language, this is the largest program of its kind in the country, and everybody else wishes they could do something like this. And that is Ruth Ann's deal. But she's been so important in building the agency and many more huge programs, the HERO program, the Clean Cities program. These are national best practice programs, and they are largely, if not all, the result of Ruth Ann's work. And she's just been a great deputy director, and I think more importantly, a really, really great friend to me. So I'm going to miss you. And as others said, some people cannot be replaced, and you're one of those people.
Thank you. Any items for future agendas? Any general announcements? Any more tough discussion? Any general announcements? All right, Council, you're up.
Yeah, we do have two closed sessions. I'm going to drop one of them, but I do need to have a few minutes with you on the first of the two closed sessions. I'm going to ask you, the water districts, I'm going to ask, and the superintendent of schools, I'll ask to leave. And I'll ask perhaps the board members to stay up there, but can sort of move it closer so I don't have to scream too much.
Thanks for staying, Jim.